Welcome to the Eye on Annapolis Local Business Spotlight. There are thousands of locally owned businesses in the area, some small and some large. Some you may know and others you don't. But one thing they all have in common is a great story, and we want to share it with you. Join us every Saturday as we talk to the founders, the owners, and the managers of local businesses you have come to know and love, and those you will come to know and love. Now here's your host, John Frenay, with this week's Local Business Spotlight.
All right, we are sitting here on Main Street in an office overlooking Main Street, which is a beautiful location. And we're here with Mike Carter, who is the president, owner, founder of Tours and Crawls, which is, I think you are probably the original pub crawl ghost tour company here in Annapolis, weren't you?
Yeah, we actually are. Definitely the first pub crawl company. There was a company based out of Virginia when I first started that would come up like once a month and do like one tour a month, and that was it. And then they hadn't been up after we started. I don't think we saw them again.
That's lame. That sounds like the roofers that show up after a storm just to
pretty much
put a new roof on your
pretty much
get your money and out.
Yeah, pretty much. So, but that was it. And since then we've been for a long time. We're the only tour company in town doing ghost tours, and certainly we're still the only one doing, as far as I know, pub crawls, especially haunted pub crawls.
Well, I'll tell you, anybody knows your company, maybe not by name or by sight, but when you are out downtown Annapolis and you see a gaggle of 12 to maybe 20 people all sort of huddled around listening to somebody in the middle, that's probably Mike or one of his people telling the history of Annapolis, which there's so much of it.
Yeah, that is definitely probably one of our groups. We're kind of easy to spot. All of our guests wear glow bracelets. Makes them easy to find on the streets, and makes it easy to find them in the bars when we're doing pub tours. Also, it's funny how excited people get when we hand them a glow bracelet. You think that they were like, 10 years old again. We give them a glow bracelet and they get so excited. So that's something we've been doing since day one as a way just to know who's on our tours and who's not.
And I've also heard that the spirits are turned off by the glow bracelets, so they won't take you to the other side.
Yeah, they don't
wearing
like
a glow bracelet.
They certainly don't. We have had incidents in the past with around the glow bracelets and glow sticks that we used to use, and people don't. The ghosts or spirits or whatever you call them, energies, don't seem to like them very much.
Just the chemical in the glass in there.
Might be
probably what it is. Well, let's talk about this. When did this start? I mean, you've been doing this as long as I can remember. So I don't know. So I'm going to guess probably early to mid 2000s.
Early 2000s.
Okay.
The original idea came around actually summer of 2001. My ex-wife and I had headed down to Savannah and Charleston for a vacation. And while we were down there, I'll never forget, we were sitting at a bagel shop and having breakfast, and it was very busy, and the people who had left a table and kind of flagged us over saying, hey, you guys are waiting for a table, take ours, had left a bunch of rack cards, like those little cards you get at a visitor center. The wife had come over and said, oh, do you mean throw these away? And we're like, no, just going to leave them. We'll look at them or whatever. So they left them there, and my ex started looking through it. And she said, wow, doesn't this look fun? And shows me this walking ghost tour card. And I went, yeah, not so much. That does not seem like something I would really have fun doing. And she's like, what other plans do we have for this evening? I said, well, none. She said, well, I want to do it. Can we do it? And I said, sure, why not? So I called up, I booked it, and we went. And halfway through, it was hot July, it was summer. We were all sweating. It started pouring. One of those like southern torrential downpours that last like half an hour. We got soaked. Half the people left, but we still had a blast. We ended up sticking around the whole tour and had a great time. The guide, at the end gave us a little pitch and said, if you really had fun doing this, for you adults, we do a haunted pub crawl as well, or actually they called it I forget what they call it, a spooky tavern tour or something like that. And I was like, wow, that sounds fun. So we went ahead and we did that like the next night. We did a pub tour. And then after that, we went down to Savannah. We get down to Savannah, and I'm like all excited because they were so much fun. So we looked up, found a haunted pub tour there, and went ahead and did that, and had a great time. So we're driving back to whatever it was, the 7 or 8 hours or however long it was to come back. And I said, I wonder why we don't have this in Annapolis. Like, it seems like it's a perfect match for who we are and what we do. And she goes, well, you never even heard of one until you did this. And so maybe there is one. And so I got back and said, yeah, maybe. I looked into it, and no, there wasn't. I only had discovered that one company out of Yorktown that was coming up once a year. And so I thought, what a great idea.
And Annapolis is such a perfect town for it because, you've got the history and everything else. And anytime you hear Annapolis compared to other cities, Charleston and Savannah always get in that mix there somehow.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a perfect match. So you didn't have this burning desire to know about ghosts and pubs since you were 3 or anything like that?
No, I always found them interesting. I've always found anything kind of paranormal, cryptozoology just to be an interesting kind of side thing. I grew up, you and I are around the same age. I grew up, watching, what was it?
Scooby-Doo?
Scooby-Doo certainly, yes. But like Discover and some of the other shows that they would put on, like, Bigfoot, all about Bigfoot.
Right. Ghost Hunters.
All that kind of stuff. Like early on, in the late 70s, early to mid 80s that were coming out. That's incredible, those kind of shows. And found that to be interesting. But no, I didn't have a burning desire until I started doing the research. And so that summer, I spent the tail part of that summer doing a ton of research, going into the archives, finding stories I could find published online. Online was a very small place then. Did a bunch of research, find all these ghost stories, and then began kind of proving or disproving them. So I went to the archives and began digging through. In those days, you actually had to go into the archives and sit there and look through the books. And I would actually do what are called folio searches, where I would look up an address where we supposedly had a haunting. I would follow it backwards through history and go as back as far as I could and see if I could find the names of an owner who'd perhaps passed away, or also looking through old newspaper articles, looking for murders or deaths around that same time period, and was able to prove a lot of the stuff that I was coming across and disprove a lot of the stuff I was coming across. From there, that's where the tour was born. I was planning to start that Halloween, but unfortunately 9/11 happened. So I took everything and I just shelved it and put it up literally on a shelf. Like I had binders full of information that I had printed out and had made notes all over and had created sort of this tour and had a map and all these things, and then just put it all up on the shelf and went back to doing my thing, working full time. And it just sat there for about another year. And then I was watching the news one morning, just like back, headline news, which I guess nobody didn't really do headline news so much anymore, but they would do these like bottom of the hour stories of, look at this fun thing. Like here's a water skiing squirrel. And one of the stories that they had this one morning they had done was about a group of ghost hunters who had gone to a local taverns in Annapolis to do ghost hunting, which was actually Ram's Head. And I was totally like, wow, this is a sign. So I said, okay, let me pull this stuff down. Maybe it's time to start pulling this out. So then I spent another few months doing more research, and I launched that spring. So it was spring 2002 that we officially launched tours. So we're now at 21 years, give or take, almost 21 years.
Congratulations.
That we've been doing this, yeah.
Congratulations.
Nonstop. We've never stopped doing it, even during COVID. We kept on going.
Well, it sounds like with all your research and stuff like that, you probably should have written a book too.
I did.
There you go.
I did write a book. It's actually published by History Press, now Arcadia Press, and it's called Haunted Annapolis, Ghosts of the Capital City. And you can read all about the ghosts in Annapolis, but you'll get even more information and be able to actually real world walk through these historic spaces and these.
There's something about, regardless of whether you're looking for ghosts or just in history, and even whether modern history, you sit there and you look and say, well, gosh, George Washington probably did shots here. Maybe he didn't do shots. I don't know. Maybe he drank beers, but whatever it is, you look at the history that this town offers, and you certainly know that there's got to be some unwritten history there as well, which is really kind of neat.
It's funny that you should mention that. Because during the course of my research, I did find a lot of those kind of stories. Some of them I think are fascinating. One of my favorites would be that George Washington, since you brought him up, would go to Middleton Tavern because Middleton Tavern, the Middleton family, ran the ferry that ran from Annapolis to Rock Hall. And so he would ride all day and show up here in the late afternoon. He would go to Middleton Tavern. He would get his drink, his ale or whatever it was he was drinking, and he would play cards all night long. He was, obviously he'd stable his horse, and then he would play cards all night long, not sleep at all. Then he would Then he would, in the morning, he would go get his horse. He would take his horse down to the docks. He would hop on the ferry, and he would sleep all day.
Sleep to Rock Hall.
While the ferry went across. And then he would get off on his horse and ride the rest of the way to Wilmington, and then from Wilmington on to Philadelphia. So, yeah, I thought that was fascinating. But all this, I kept coming on more and more and more, this crazy history that I couldn't find other places. And that's actually where one of our other tours, our Twisted History tour, came from, was from all this interesting and fascinating history. I sort of started it, created it, got a tour going, and then Melissa, my VP and one of our tour leaders.
Melissa's great.
Melissa's awesome.
Incredible florist.
Couldn't do the incredible florist, as well as a fantastic tour guide and an amazing, super awesome person. She has taken that and run with it, and she's also a history nut and has done even more research on the Twisted side. And I know she's putting together information for a book on Twisted history in Annapolis. So,
and that's cool. That's just not that's not the ghost stuff. That's not the
no. This is separate.
Fifth grade history book stuff. This is the oddball stuff that is fascinating.
I call it murder, mayhem, sex, and scandal. That's
okay.
Pretty much what we cover on that particular tour. Although there's also a riot thrown in there, but you'd have to take the tour to hear about the Annapolis riot.
And well, you've got several different tours. I mean, you've got the ghost tours, you've got the pub tours, you've got the walking tours, which is like that Twisted History tour. What's your bread and butter? I mean, is it the ghost tours? Or is it,
I mean, it's always been, the ghost tour has always been, the walking ghost tour, that is, has always been at the heart of it, mainly because it's family friendly, all ages. We get people visiting and who live here who are bringing family friends. We've always joked that we're kind of like the Smithsonian of Annapolis, where when you have friends in town, they're like, hey, let's go to the Smithsonian. And you're like, again, okay. We'll go down to Washington. We'll go to the museums. We kind of joke that, with a lot of people, we've had people who've come on our tour a half dozen times with different family and friends because they come to town. They say, hey, we have a great activity for you to do. And they take them on a walking.
I'll tell you, I am such a fan of being a tourist in your hometown. And I think that you learn something new every time. And I'd go out on the Harbor Queen and I'll learn something new. I remember I learned on one of their boats about water in the bottom of the Trident Light. There is a vessel in the bottom, in the foundation of the Trident Light right at the end of the Naval Academy wall. Mm-hmm. And it has water from each of the seven seas. All sorts of little tidbits that people are coming up. And, to agree, some of them may be whispered down the line and it, may have been distorted a little bit. But it's just very fascinating to see what it is. I remember the first time when I learned that the poor people lived down at the water. It wasn't it wasn't the rich folk.
Douglas Bloody Point.
Anywhere, any water. And instead, the wealthy lived up at the top of the hill because they had sewage they needed to dispose of, and it would go into the creek. So it was, and I'm like, aha, shit flows downhill. Maybe that was my own interpretation of where that may have come from.
No, that's actually true. There's two reasons for that, and this came out of the research I was doing. One being exactly what you just said: the sewage ran downhill. The other being that there was a lot of vermin, and they stayed down by the waterfront because there was a lot more food for them because of all the ships coming in and bringing food and that kind of thing. You had bugs, you had tons of mosquitoes. It wasn't like today where we have treatments for that and prevent the mosquitoes. So tons of mosquitoes and rats and other kinds of vermin. So that's why the rich people lived at the top of the hill. Why all the nicest mansions in Annapolis, for the most part, are on the high ground.
Makes sense. Probably
better breeze too.
Oh, true. I didn't even think about that. Well, I mean, let's talk about your tours. I mean, how long are they? I mean, they're walking tours.
Correct.
So you've got to be ambulatory.
Yeah.
We
are. It's hard to say in Annapolis. It's hard to say anything is wheelchair friendly.
It's true. Annapolis has a real difficult time with ADA compliance.
But we do have a tour route that we can take people if they are, as long as they're like somewhat mobile or have somebody who can help push them on a wheelchair. We are wheelchair friendly as well. But yeah, it's a 90-minute walking tour. We walk around the historic downtown area. The route varies group to group, night to night. What's happening event wise?
Really? Okay, so I can come in tonight and do one, and then next week maybe a different route. And
yeah, well, we pride ourselves on that. One of the things we pride ourselves on is that the way we train our staff and our tour leaders, everybody has their own favorite stories they like to tell, and the ones that they don't necessarily love. There's certain ones we require. They say you have to tell these, but others they have their choice. So we like to pride ourselves on the fact that you can come take the tour with two different guides and get two totally different experiences.
That's cool. That's smart.
So we don't script train them. Tried that in the very, very beginning. I had written this great script for the tour with jokes written into it and pause for laughter.
Oh gosh!
And it was an absolute debacle. And I think we were probably a month, maybe 2 months in, when the guys were like, "Can I just not do the script? Can I just kind of do my own little ad-libbing?" And I was like, "Sure, I guess so."
Mike,
and then suddenly,
you're not funny, Mike.
Yeah, I know. Apparently, I'm not.
That's
Yeah, apparently, yeah, I'm not. Insert laugh. Literally, I'm like, right, wait for laughter.
Oh, that's funny.
I still have it. I have that printed out still. I actually still have a copy of that, and I love to periodically go back and pull that file open and look at it and just laugh at this like ridiculous script I wrote.
Oh, that's great. I mean, at that point, you might as well just get those little boxes that you clip onto your waist and
pretty much
put your headphones
on. So now every guide has their own. They all make their own jokes. They all have their own things that they do and their own stories that they like to tell. So yeah, every tour is different.
Where do you start your tours?
Most tours start at the Maryland Inn. About 98% of our tours start there, with the exception of like private events, which we can start pretty much anywhere. It's not uncommon for us to pick a group up at their hotel for a private event.
Okay, so Maryland Inn, right at the top of Main Street,
yep.
Right on Main Street and Church Circle.
Yep, right on the front porch.
The big building that looks like a sharp V, looks like the Flatiron Building.
Exactly, I always say that. It looks kind of like a miniature version of the Flatiron Building. Yeah, we've been operating out of there since about 2008. We started operating out of there, and have been there ever since. We've had a great relationship with historians of Annapolis. Over the years, it's funny how many of the GMs that I've met and gone, and worked with, and it's funny how many of them. I will say the new GM is fantastic. I give him a big plug to Ken. I love Ken. He's the new GM of Historians. Mm-hmm. He got right away who we were and what we did. And we didn't have to require no explanation. Just introduced myself. He said, "Oh, fantastic!" So they've been great. But in the past, I've had their predecessors call me in for a meeting and say, "Okay, so who are you, and why are we letting you run tours out of our hotel? And why are we doing this? I don't understand. What are we gaining out of it?" And I say, "Well, we put on average about 6,000 people through your bar downstairs. That being the drummer's lot,
right?
Let's just call it $5 a drink." Even though we know it's not, let's just go for easy math. Do the math. And they go, "Okay, welcome. Nice to meet you."
Right. Primary audience is tourists that are probably going, "Wow, this is a fantastic building. This is an awesome place. We probably should stay," as opposed to, some concrete monstrosity.
Absolutely.
Someplace.
We have that all the time, too. We have people, will say, next time I come to Annapolis, I'm going to stay here. This is a really cool hotel, or these hotels are very cool. Because especially boat show time, we get people from all over, and people come back every year for boat show. We get families of mids coming, a lot of Navy people who are alumni of the academy who come back for different games and such. And so, we get them on our tours, and we get them saying, "I should stay here."
Do you have any plans for expansion? I mean, you're here in Annapolis. You're kicking butt in Annapolis. I mean, you've got the different. Before I get to that,
yes.
I was on your website, and everyone should go there and take a look at it. It's toursandcrawls.com, all spelled out. But you have a header up there, and it says cooking. And I put 3 question marks, okay, so where does ghost tours, pub crawls, walking tours, and cooking come in?
So I will jump into cooking, give you half a second. I do want to mention something. I mentioned something earlier. Most people know us as Annapolis Ghost Tours, locals. So if you look up Annapolis Ghost Tours also, you come to us. That's something.
Oh, okay.
Everybody, when I say tours across, people go, "I don't know what that is." Annapolis Ghost Tours. Oh! Annapolis Ghost Tours. Got it. Because that's what we used to be called. But anyway.
Okay. And you've got that domain, Annapolis Ghost Tours?
Oh, yeah. And in fact, it's actually Annapolis Ghosts will also get you to our page.
Well, it makes sense because you've expanded from Ghost Tours.
Yeah, exactly. So we changed it about 10 years ago. But cooking school, yes. So I, along with a business partner and a group of investors, came together and created a recreational cooking school up in Catonsville, just outside of Baltimore. It is from Annapolis, surprisingly, only 30 minutes to get there. I drive up there all the time, and it takes me 32 minutes door to door, and I live down near Cape St. Clair. So it takes me 32 minutes door to door. So it's not far. We teach over 100 different classes on a variety of cooking techniques, skills, as well as regional and ethnic cooking classes for people who want to expand their cooking repertoire, or for people who don't know how to cook and just want to learn basics. We have basic classes, things like knife skills, chicken butchery, cooking with cast iron. That's actually a really popular class.
Wow. So is this like a one-off class? I mean, I can take cooking with cast iron, go and take that class and then be done, or is there a whole curriculum like a semester?
It's one-off. You can do one and done. We do some classes in series. Usually those are country-based. So I know we have a French series. We're working on an Asian series right now. We have a variety of Italian as another series. So we do series classes for adults who are like, that's really designed for the more adept cooks out there who want to really kind of sharpen their skills and kick it up a notch. We also do a ton of kids stuff. We do after-school classes for kids that run from 5 to 7 so that you can drop your kids off after school. Not every kid wants to play soccer. Not every kid wants to play baseball.
Right.
Some of them they watch these cooking shows and they want to be cooks.
And thank gosh for them, because then we wouldn't have wonderful restaurants.
Correct. So we like to think that we're training the next generation of chefs who are going to come out of going to go on to become chefs and go to the cooking.
That's cool. Are you an adept chef? Adept cook yourself?
I would say I am a good cook. I would not say I am a overly adept cook. I thought I was adept until I started the school, and I spend much of my time surrounded by chefs. I realize, what a babe in the woods I am. Like just little things, like I always cooked with olive oil because, everybody told us to cook with olive oil. Rachel Ray, the Evu thing. One of the first things I learned when the chefs came in is don't cook with olive oil. Olive oil is a dressing. It's not a oil you cook with because its smoke point is so low. You should always be using a vegetable oil or an avocado oil or something like that when you're cooking. Anything other than just heating something. Like, if you're just doing a low heat, sure, olive oil, go to town. But the rest of it, you want to use a different kind of oil. And just little things like that I just did not – I thought I was so adept in the order in which things go in is so important. Just little things like that. Like I just never really thought about. And also, I'm not a recipe follower. I will look at a recipe and then I just sort of go with it and do my own thing based on
adjust as you go and taste.
And baking, forget it. I'm a horrible baker. Like, don't ever give me something to bake.
I'm going to have to dig a little bit deeper into that because I am a horrible cook. I would like to learn a little bit better. I think it might be something fun for my girlfriend and I to do.
We get a lot of date night people. We get a lot of, especially out here, we're getting a lot of. We do parent-child classes, which is for kids of any age.
I spent 25 years getting rid of them. I'm not going to bring them back.
Well, not for you, but for the younger parents out there who's got, I would say pretty much younger than 6 is a little on the young side, but anything 6 and up with a parent, they can learn to make donuts, they can learn to make sushi, they can learn to do pasta from scratch. You name it, they can do it. So we have a lot of that stuff too. So it's pretty cool. We opened during COVID still. We made the decision that people were going stir crazy, wanted to get out. So as soon as they opened up, and the mandates allowed us to have 10 people gathered, we opened up at that point, and we allowed 10 people in the classroom. I would literally sit there before each class with a tape measure, measuring
6 foot,
measuring 6 foot from stool to stool, so that people would not be coming in with 6 feet of each other. Everybody was masked. The chef was masked. There was no sharing of food, no sharing of ingredients. Things have opened up a lot since then. Now we have on average about 14 people in the class. We don't, they are still cooking. We decided to go with the cooking your own recipes rather than group recipes, which some of the other schools in the area do, where they say, here, you guys are making this and this group's making that. And then we're all going to come together and put those all on the table and everybody's going to eat a little bit of each. Each person makes their whole set of recipes and eats only their food. We liked that once we started doing it. People liked it. People responded well, so we keep on doing it.
What's the future look like for Annapolis ghost tours or tours and crawls?
So we are working on some really cool new stuff. It's kind of depends on what happens. We'd like to do we're looking to do a cocktail tour, go around to different bars, try different cocktails. We've talked about doing a whiskey tour.
Annapolis has really upped their game as far as cocktails go.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll say that probably came when Metropolitan came into town, or probably when it was the first iteration of Metropolitan where the drinks were crazy expensive, and then it turned into a Mexican place for a little bit. And then it went back to a Metropolitan again.
Yeah, I would say I think we have to give a lot of credit to our mayor and former and will again be restaurateur Gavin and his partner Jody. I think they've done a fantastic job with bringing like that kind of craft cocktail thinking into Annapolis between Metropolitan and also at Tsunami. I mean, Tsunami has a fantastic cocktail menu, and then I feel like that kind of carried over when Scotty opened up Sailor.
Yeah,
that same sort of thing.
You look at Sailor, you look at Vin, how that's come. You look at the brand new Parley Room.
God, Alex, what Alex does at Vin, amazing.
I mean, you look at the new Parley Room over here over Vita.
Yes.
You dry 85.
Yep.
They've really upped that. Even out in West Annapolis, you look at Flamont and everything else. It's very cool to see the city evolve like that.
And I kind of hope that the citizens of Annapolis recognize how hard some of these restaurateurs, who've now become like restaurant groups, are working to really bring the food levels up. You look at the Fox brothers or the Fox family, who started out, I would say, same time period, shortly after, with Level. Right. Level was another one that was doing fantastic cocktails. First place doing small plates. And so they started out with Level. Well, actually, I take it back. They had Sly Fox before that. Then they did Level. And then I guess Fox's Den and then Vita. Big props to my friend Josh Brown for creating an amazing menu there. And then they've got Parley above that. And that I'm really looking forward to the warm weather so I can take advantage of that really cool patio they have. Those who don't know, they took over the State House Inn. And they have that cool patio facing the State House. I mean, you can't get much better view short of them on the water, other than looking up at the State House at night and having cocktails on that patio.
No, you certainly can. I understand they got a couple of rooms up there too. Not many, but
that's my understanding. I have not checked them out. Yeah, I have not checked that out. But I've been in Parley a couple times now, and been really impressed.
Yeah, that's cool. So you're looking to do a cocktail tour?
Yes.
That would
definitely
be fun.
Want to do a cocktail tour. We're trying to decide if we want to just make that strictly cocktail knowledge, or if we want to kind of combine that with some of the history, kind of make it a cocktails and history kind of thing.
But that's cool. So what's your time frame for a cocktail tour? Or isn't there one?
We'd like to have it up in the next 6 months. That would be
gosh,
goal.
Okay.
But it's actually a lot harder than people would think it is. You can't just come up with an idea and just do it. You have to come up with the idea, then you have to do the research, then you have to make it like fun and something you can disseminate out to the public in a fun and interesting way, rather than just sitting there and droning on about different cocktails and ingredients. It's actually looking up and having fun historical facts about the different ingredients. How did gin come about, or what founding father liked to. That's sort of where I've always seen it tying in, is sort of with the founding fathers, the colonial period, the cocktails they were drinking in those days, because we have recipes that were used to make cocktails during the colonial period. For example,
this was Jefferson's favorite.
Yeah, certainly you had that. I mean, obviously Washington came here. Ben Franklin came here, oversaw the installation of his lightning rod on the State House, which is still there, which I think is super cool. Yeah. But many of our founding fathers came here. One of my favorites is Alexander Hamilton. Liked him before the musical, like him even more after. But I always thought it was so cool that he kept big bowls of rum punch all around his house. He would wake up every morning and have a rum punch because the water wasn't safe to drink. So he would drink rum punch. So
there's some logic there, probably.
So that was but that was not an uncommon thing for people to drink beer instead of water, or to add alcohol to water. That was sort of the whole thing with Navy ships, grog. You put your rum in the water and you kill any bacteria that might be in there.
That's it. Well, I'll tell you, as we start to wrap it up, I mean, you've been doing these for 20 years, and I am a believer in ghosts and spirits and whatnot. Not the Casper
right.
type thing, but just little odd, freaky things. I know one of the tours that I did with you, I was taking a bunch of pictures, and I don't remember which building it was. It was very weird. It wouldn't let me tweet it out, the picture that I took there.
Interesting.
It was just, everything else was fine. So I went home and I said, okay, well, I'll tweet it out from my computer at home. And it errored on the images at that property. And I'm like, okay, this is really weird. And I mean, I didn't feel any cold air blowing on my neck or anything like that. Tried to do it on Facebook. I still got an error. It was weird. So what I did is I renamed the files and tweeted it and it went out fine. So instead of the DSC 138, whatever it was okay, ghost tour.
Trick whoever it was that didn't like it.
But it was just those images at that property, not and I don't have any explanation for it. I mean, I'll chalk it up to a ghost thing. I mean, it wasn't like oh my gosh, I'm freaked out, I'm scared, I got to run. And that's what makes a really good ghost tour, I think, to me, is it's not scary. It's just, that's interesting. You talk about, the ram's head and the bedpost.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you ever want to learn about that one, that's definitely, there's a really cool story there. You did ask me earlier about like my interest in ghosts and all that, and if I don't know if you actually asked about any of my own experiences or not, but there are two quick things I would like to mention. One, we actually don't talk about on the tour, and one doesn't take place here at all. But when I grew up in London. My dad was with the government, and so I was living in London as a small child, and spent the night at a friend's house. And in the middle of the night, I woke up, and as young kids do, and had to use their bathroom, and went out and was heading to the bathroom when this old man stopped. He was standing in the hallway, and I still remember it very vividly. He was wearing like an yellow like raincoat, and he had a hat on.
It's the Gorton's fisherman.
Exactly. And now I do sort of wonder if I didn't project the Gorton's fisherman on my memory or not. Yeah. But I remember that, and I remember like saying hi to him and him smiling at me, and then turning around, walking back down the stairs. And so I went back to bed, and the next morning we were having breakfast, and I said to his mom, my friend's mom, "Where's Grandpa? Like, is he your grandfather? Is he coming down to have breakfast with us?" She said, "Excuse me, who are you talking about?" I said, "Your grandpa, like." I saw him on the stairs, and she started kind of laughing. And I remember my parents then coming to pick me up, or my mom coming to pick me up, and her telling my mom what would happen, and said, "That's so weird because we've been having these issues in the house with the kids' shoes disappearing and moving around, and being found. We left them in one place and found it in another, or whatever." And I had done a little bit of research into the house, and it had belonged to a sea captain who had died at sea. So I don't know if that's what I saw, but it was just sort of kind of piqued my interest in those types of things. That's what kind of got me interested in paranormal.
Interesting.
But I was actually up at the Maryland Inn one night on the second floor balcony, which a lot of people don't even know is there. Mm-hmm. And it was a hot, hot summer night. And we were waiting for tours to start. I was with my ex and my son, and he was just a toddler at the time. He's now almost 18. We were up there, and there was not a lick of wind, as you find in the Annapolis summer. It's just hot, hot, no breeze. And they used to have these 3 rocking chairs sitting up there. And one of the rocking chairs just started moving for no reason at all. Not all 3, just one. And I got this strong whiff of, like, pipe tobacco. And I actually went and looked over, like, the edge to see if there's anybody down the street smoking a pipe. Nothing. So I walked over, and I touched the chair and stopped it from rocking. It got a little bit of, like a little like electric shock, and then I went back down and sat down, and sure enough, a few minutes later, it started rocking again, same chair, got the same whiff again, and it happened 3 times, and I was like, wow, this is really kind of freaky. And at that point, it was time to head downstairs, but yeah, that was sort of my guess. I like to think that was Captain Charles Campbell, who we talk about in one of our stories at the Maryland Inn, just enjoying the summer day, summer evening with a pipe and probably a pint in hand, as he's usually spotted.
What's the oddest encounter that you've heard from the thousands of people that have taken your tours? I mean, I'm sure they all report back, not all, but I'm sure many report back like, this was great. Even if review, this was a great and everything else. I mean, your reviews are stellar, but...
So I would say there's a few come to mind. There's actually a set of pictures up on our website in the gallery and they're definitely on our Facebook page as well, that there's one woman captured in the St. Anne's churchyard where the old graves are. That used to be a full-fledged, all-out cemetery right there that went all over that area. I mean, where Church Circle is now, all the road, that was a cemetery. There are bodies under that road that they did not necessarily get to, and they'd still find, when they do excavations, they do construction, they still find body parts, because then they moved the St. Anne's Cemetery over by the river, or the creek, I guess it is. Right. But we've had several different guides have issues in that area where they're middle of a story, happens a lot, and the lights will start flashing, or one will flash off, flash on, and when they mention the name of the ghost that haunts that churchyard. And then we had several guides also report feeling tingly, like almost like somebody had put their hand on the back of their neck, or maybe was blowing on the back of their neck, and like hands going through their hair. So we've had that happen quite a few times to both guests and guides.
Interesting. And there's all, and I do think that with the paranormal, it has to, the recipient has to be. I think there's certain people that are more prone to attracting.
Yeah, I think there are. Yeah,
or something. I'm not sure I'm saying that correctly, but I think
more people. Some people are more in tune maybe with it. Like I tend to think that sort of ghosts or spirits or apparitions or whatever you want to call them. I feel like there is a scientific basis in it, and it has to do with the energy that once flowed through, that will currently flow through our bodies, the firing of our synapses and things like that, and those electrical impulses are there. If you want a
little physiology work.
Well, the physics, actually, I would say, energy is neither created nor destroyed, must remain constant. Sure. So that energy that's powering our body has to go somewhere. So maybe it's still floating around somewhere. For some cases, when people die suddenly or unexpectedly, the energy doesn't know where to go. Be that whatever you want to call the afterlife. So, I would say that. And one thing we always tell people on our tours, take pictures of just windows and stuff that and you probably heard them say that, because you never know what you're going to get. And some of the best pictures we've gotten, ghost shots, are somebody who's taking a picture of the building. And they're like, yeah, I took a picture of the building, and there's like a face in the window, and they send them to me. And a lot of times it's actually a reflection of somebody in the street.
Sure, a tree or something.
But plenty of times we can't explain it. And I've got a couple of really great pictures I put up on the web of the Brace house, the Brace mansion, right. Where we've got pictures of two different ghosts in a window, and it is a really freaky picture.
That's cool.
And you can clearly see that they are not real people, that they are like some type of apparition or something, and they're not reflections because they're on the second floor.
What's the most surprising thing people don't know about you? Not you personally, but about Tours in Charleston. What would people be surprised to know?
I would say first that we are probably the biggest skeptics that you're ever going to meet when it comes to this subject of ghosts. We are not a we believe people. Almost all of my staff are. We do believe because we have seen and heard and experienced so much, but a lot of it, we come at everything from a skeptic standpoint. This goes back to my earliest research. I'd read something and I would say, this isn't true. Let me see if I can't prove that it isn't true or that it is.
Well, trust but verify.
Exactly. And so that what I think is surprising to a lot of people, that I think a lot of people picture us being, they believe in ghosts no matter what. And, they think they're mediums and things like that. We don't. We all love history.
Well, you're historians, I think.
Yeah, we all love history. And, we look at the history part of it, and then we just have these other stories that are tied to those histories. I've always taught my staff and everybody else is that the history of the hauntings are tied one and the same. The history sets the stage for the hauntings, and the hauntings bring the history to life.
True.
And that's how we've always viewed our tours. And that's, I think, why they're different each time, because everybody has their own things they love about history.
Well, I love that it's a no bullshit tour. I mean, you're not okay. Well, here we are in front of this is 12 Main Street, and at one time, so you're not fabricating a story here. I mean,
this is all verified, and the history of the buildings and who lived there. Absolutely. I mean, that's something. You asked the question also, what are people surprised by? I think that also when they meet my staff, when they show up for a tour, I think they're expecting, somebody to come out all dressed in black and, very gothy and whatever. That's not how we are. We are regular, I do ask them to wear black or, clothing, not like goth clothing, just black, so that people are focusing on their face, not what they're wearing.
Okay, now I'm a believer in spirits or something like that. We were talking mid conversation with full batteries that I put in just before I came over here, and the recorder just went off. So somebody was a little bit upset about something that we were talking about.
That is certainly possible. Don't rule it out.
But what I would do is I would suggest anybody that's listening to this, whether you be a visitor to the town, and if you are, welcome to Annapolis. It's a wonderful town to both visit and live in. But if you are a resident of town, if you're just looking for something fun to do, 7 nights a week, Mike Carter's tours are running. They start at the Maryland Inn at the top of Main Street. You're going to learn something, and you're going to be entertained for 90 minutes.
Or 2 hours on a pub crawl.
2 hours on a pub crawl?
Yes.
Well, you've got to work in some drinking time.
Exactly.
That is the difference, yes. that will work there. And definitely want to check out toursandcrawls.com or AnnapolisGhostTours.com.
Or Annapolis Ghosts, if you want to shorten it.
Or Annapolis Ghost.
Yeah, either too.
Whatever way it is, buy them all. And, do a ghost tour. They're a lot of fun. You're going to learn a lot more about Annapolis than you knew before you started it. And personally, I'm going to click on the cooking link and find out what's up in Catonsville because I think that's fascinating to see.
Please do.
And as far as getting there, can we just walk up to the Maryland Inn and say, hey, I'm here for the ghost tour?
Typically, no. I mean, if we have a tour already going and, they're all just meeting up, then yeah, we will take walk-ups. But for the most part, we do recommend and kind of prefer that you buy your tickets in advance. That way it speeds up the check-in process so we're not trying to do a last-minute sale. And that way we know how many people are coming, especially on the pub tours, so that we can let the bars know in advance how many people are coming in.
Oh, that's something I never thought about, yeah.
Because we're showing up sometimes with 20, 30 people, and we need to make sure the bars know we're coming.
Right, and the bartender's going, yeah, just what I need.
Oh, no, they love us.
No, I'm sure they do, but it's like...
They hate us when we're there, but they love us once we leave.
That's right. When they run the Z on the register at the end of the night.
Once they get the tips and everything, they love us. But the moment when they're cranking out 30 drinks at once, not as much. But the restaurants in this town have been absolutely fabulous and fantastic with us. So can't thank them enough.
But Mike, thank you so much for your time today, and congratulations on 20-plus years of running the original and really, I guess, the only locally owned ghost tour here.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for listening to this week's Local Business Spotlight. Please make sure to visit eyeonannapolis.net for all your local news, events, and opinion. And in case you haven't already, please subscribe to the Eye on Annapolis Daily News Brief, where we bring you all the day's local news direct to your phone, tablet, or computer in about 10 minutes. It comes to you at 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday, and you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.